morning, everyone. So, we've been doing this whole series. For those of you who've been following along, I appreciate it. This is a third part to the series of how to create a financial structure. We have already done your personal, we did business. Today, we're going to have a conversation about your team. So, today, our guest is Eric Goldman. He's an executive coach at Optimum. He's going to share with us today what his process is like, because as you build your financial team, your financial structure, your team is a big part of that as well. So we're going to discuss all of it. I'm excited to have you guys here with us. So let's go. Good morning, everyone. So, finances. I figure April is the perfect month to start having that discussion. Listen, there are business folks that have been in business 25, 30 years, and I've met you guys, you know who you are, who's still so embarrassed to confess that it is not an area that is working for them. And let's face it, we're going into a crazy time right now. So it's time for us to switch that and learn some more information. So this morning we have with us Eric Goldman. He's going to share with us what his process is like. Eric, thanks for being on the show today. I really appreciate you coming by to share with us. I'm always so excited when professionals like you say, like, yeah, of course, Paul, I'll be on the show. I'm like, I'm so humbled, So good morning, Eric. My first question, I'm just going to jump right in. I want to know more about Eric and this amazing system and these predictives that you use to help businesses move forward.
Well, thank you for having me, Paula. It's great to be here. And yes, it's very funny that we live within a short driving distance, but we're doing this virtually. But it makes a lot of sense. And, we don't have to go into a big production studio. We can just be in our own homes and have our fireside chat.
Exactly.
So the short answer is I use a couple of different systems, processes, and tools really to help teams to optimize their output. And I know that sounds very technical because, people aren't technical per se. They have personalities and they have strengths and, areas of opportunity. Sometimes we call them weaknesses. So, what makes teams function is, having a system that they can use, having a way to interact with each other, having the kind of knowledge of the team they want to build and the different skill sets and behavioral profiles that they need to make those teams successful.
I think one of the questions you just kind of hit the nail on the head that I get asked is, I just want to know how. I don't know how, right? And that I feel that applies to so much, right? And literally, I figured, go ahead and rustle with the biggest one, which is finances. But it has so many tentacles, right? It ties into so much, not just our business, right? So, what is it about the team dynamic that can determine a company's success in moving this thing forward?
Well, that can be a very complicated answer because people are very unique. The simple answer to that is looking at the team as a whole and then looking at the individuals on that particular team. One of the processes that I go through, this is tried and true. It's from Patrick Lencioni. It's called Right People, Right Seats. A lot of folks have been using it for quite some time. But the first thing that I do when I'm working with my clients, these can be startups that are trying to figure out who to hire on their team or why the 2 or 3 founders are somehow not really getting along and heading in opposite directions. Or it can be an established team at a growing company, with 500 employees, the same kinds of issues apply in both situations. So the first thing I do is we remove all the people from the equation. And rather than create, what people call an org chart, I call it a function chart and a responsibility chart or accountability chart. And we basically pull the people out of it, we put them aside, and we look at the organization and the organization's need and figure out what that team should look like and what those high functional areas should be and what the 3, 4, 5 key responsibilities are. Right. Then we go over to the people piece and we use a couple of different behavioral assessments. I use the predictive index. Yeah. You've heard of Colby and Myers-Briggs and all of those. Yeah. But basically you're looking at whether somebody has the capacity, the experience, and the expertise. But that's only one part of it. The other part, honestly, is whether they enjoy doing what they're doing. Is this something that they get up in the morning excited about? Do they come to work with energy and enthusiasm? So it's important to look at both aspects of that. And then you take the people part and you have a very difficult conversation with that team in real time, in an open and honest fashion, and figure out who fits in which job, and we take it from there.
Well, let me ask you a question. Because I'm sorry, you kind of opened up Pandora's box on this one. What's the number one problem that you see when you work with either the C-suite executives or the entire leadership team? What's that number one problem that you typically see?
That's a great question. And it's the one that everybody is apprehensive about, nervous about, quite frankly, scared. Because usually the person in that room that doesn't fit knows it. And everybody else in the room knows it as well. The problem is, that elephant in the room is so fraught with anxiety and guilt and conflict. So that's typically what happens is there's somebody at the end of that exercise that doesn't fit. And it might be somebody that everybody loves and adores and they've been there a long time and everybody wants to do the right thing, but there just isn't a seat for them. And I encourage my clients to move pretty quickly to make those decisions so they can get the right people in the right seats. Well, the other issue, of course, is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to throw like a bomb into that one. What if the person who doesn't fit is the superstar? That high functioning, they're like the island by themselves, but they might not necessarily fit the culture. What if it's that person?
Yeah, there's those situations too, which are also fraught with all kinds of difficult emotions. It might be one of the founders. It might be somebody with a lot of power. It might be somebody that everybody's really pleased about their output and their success. And they're worried that if that person leaves, let's say it's the head of sales, and they're just blowing their numbers, hitting it out of the park, but they're just not a good culture fit. And they're that person, that in every meeting, they're too loud, they're interrupting, they're not listening well. They don't really embrace the company culture. And I encourage my clients to help those people move along as well. And part of what I do in terms of assessments, behavioral and skills based, is help them to identify exactly the kind of profile that they need to hire a new person in that position. And that makes it a lot easier for them to get that high functioning person on that team.
That sounds really scary, because especially if it's a head of sales and
Yep.
your profitability, we're talking financial structure here, and that's dependent on that person. That's a little scary. For how often do business owners actually, once they go through the process, understand that this person may need to move on? I don't know if you have a number for me, but it just sounds like a really scary situation for a business owner.
It happens a lot, actually.
Wow. Okay.
And the interesting thing is everybody knows it. It's not like I come in there and, everybody's suddenly surprised. They all know it, but they don't want to confront it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing, that they're not paying enough attention to is that person is whittling away at the culture. And it's not just how they interact with the people on the C-suite, it's how they interact with the people that they manage, the potentially the customers they work with outside the company. So they're having a pretty broad negative effect on the organization. And in the long term, they're going to do more damage than good.
So I feel like that question just jumped me to my next question, which was, how do you proactively determine the right makeup for a high functioning team?
It's interesting because that whole process is changing so rapidly, literally as we speak, as people are using artificial intelligence more and more, because AI can really dig into a person's background. There's systems that will use peer reviews and all kinds of algorithms and data to figure out whether somebody is a good fit for a particular position.
Wow.
There's also,
I of course I know intuitively, because if you can ask it an elegant question, right, and give it share with it the tools, it will forward back to you an elegant answer. Applications just always blow my mind as I speak to different industries. So it's, of course I know, but it's, wow, that's impressive.
More and more of the tools around hiring and inspiring and, engaging teams and designing them, it's not just algorithms, it's also, artificial intelligence. So you can dig really deep into who a person is and how they're going to behave and where they're high functioning, in what kind of culture, in what kind of role.
Wow. I should do that on myself. You had mentioned something earlier where you said, as the discussion moves forward, as the training moves forward, sometimes it happens that there isn't a seat for someone. Maybe it's someone no one likes, but it also could be someone who's been there for a while, someone people love. What happens in that case?
Those are really difficult. And when I go through that process, one of the things that's different is I'm not sitting in an office with the CEO and maybe the head of people or HR figuring out, how do we do this and how do we talk to them and what's the exit strategy? I do this real time with the whole executive team. So, there's 4 people, there's 7 people, and we go through the process together. And what happens is the issues just present themselves because they're already there. And, everyone in the room has to take an active part in determining the outcome of what that team makeup should be. And it's very emotional. I rarely go through that process without tears and frustration, but everyone's on the same page. It's not just, the CEO, they fired that person. I can't believe it. They're a horrible person for doing that. That was my great friend.
I love that there's a discussion so that everyone even the person who knows that they don't fit comes to
Yep,
a
they're in the room.
conversation with each other. That does sound a little emotional.
It is. Sometimes it's horrible.
It's, oh, wow. What what does a business have to do to be ready for working with someone like yourself, in particular the EOS system? Because, like I said, you know how many times I've thanked you for that one book, but that book opened my eyes on, no, 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 chicken can't go before the egg. Um, let's back up a little bit and get some other things done first. So share with me some of the things that a business owner, if they're moving in that direction of wanting growth and, you know, building a better business, as I always say, what are some of the things that they would need to tackle first before they even speak to a Mr. Goldman? You know?
When
Talk
are
to
they
me
ready?
about it.
When are they ready? That is the question. Real quick, the book that you're talking about is called Traction. It's been around for about 15 years.
You
It's
think it's so dog-eared. You think I would have it somewhere. I have no idea what it is. I'm such a
it's a
bad
top
host.
seller, and it was written by a gentleman named Gino Wickman, and he's the gentleman that essentially created EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's a great book to read, whether you're looking at using EOS or any other platform, and you just want to figure out, where do I need to be in order to do this? And what are the different areas where this is going to help me? And understanding that this is not a short-term process. This takes a year, sometimes even 2 years, to get all of this organized and in place, and in a way that's really driving success within the organization.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things that it's helped me with personally, once I looked at my schedule, once I started reading the book and looking at the process, there were just clearly things and people that I just needed to move out of the way. It was ridiculously very clear. But you say it's the emotional part, like, but I don't want to do it. It's like, no, no, no. But, once you do it, even if it's just, okay, let me do it inch by inch, because it's a cinch, you literally feel that vein opening up, that rush of blood to your head. It's a little overwhelming. The changes that will happen in your business when you get rid of the things that, like you said, you already know the things that you have to get rid of. It's great having a process like yours that, okay, let's go through it and really have a proper discussion. And let's just look at science. Let's just look at your numbers. That's all we're doing. And even though we're trying to keep it from not being emotional, it really is, because it's forcing you to look at the truth, right? So it's
a great question and a great observation, given your own personal experience. And using data is critical in every part of your business, and using data to evaluate people, to try and predict how they're going to function on a particular team, how to create the right makeup of that team, is all data-based. And you can do that on the assessment side of people that already work there, or people that you're considering for one of those positions, and you already know what the makeup of that team should be. For example,
I was just about
one
to
of
say,
the
can you give me
dynamics.
some tools? Give me some of the, if you could add to that answer, some particular
Sure.
processes and tools that you use, because I'd love for folks to hear. I mean, the whole system is so intriguing to me.
Sure. So in one of the behavioral assessments, one of the aspects of an individual's makeup has to do with whether they tend to just jump on an idea and run with it, or whether they're the person that needs a lot of data and a lot of information before they can move forward with it. And those are the two ends of the spectrum. And in a healthy team, you need both. You need the person that is ready to go, has the energy and the enthusiasm, and wants to take on the responsibility. But you also need the person in the room that's saying, hey, wait a minute. This sounds great anecdotally, but what's the data say? And is this the right thing? And should we move forward so quickly? And you have a healthy level of tension between those 2 points of view. Another tool that is actually part of the EOS system, and it's in the book, which sounds incredibly simple, but it works. Sometimes the simplest tools are the ones that yield the greatest results. And it's called GWC, and the G is for get it, the W is for want it, and the C is for capacity. And again, this is something that I'll work with clients on the leadership team in real time. Everybody gets to provide input for each individual in that executive team, in that workshop. And the get it is, is this in their bones? Is this intrinsically something that they know how to do? When you look at this person and you see how they work, how they operate, how they interact, you can say, wow, this person is definitely creative, great marketing person. I know this person's just gonna nail it. Yeah, exactly. Like you, Paula. And then the other one, I mentioned earlier is, do they want it? If people are going to perform, they really need to want it. They need to be interested and engaged and excited about it. And then the last one is whether they have the capacity, which isn't the time, it's more, do they have the experience and the expertise? Sometimes people will say, do they have the chops? But that simple exercise going through each person where the other folks in the room get to vote, essentially, there's a scoring system, really helps with the process of putting the right people in the right seats.
I love that. I love that. I love that you, one thing that you mentioned as you were sharing was the idea of healthy tension. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more? It's just it's almost, I feel like people need to hear it. I have one referral partner who made the following comment to me. Oh, no, I don't like to look people in the eyes. That's too aggressive. And I go, no, you have that wrong. That's dogs and animals. I don't know who told you. Making eye contact and seeing someone and acknowledging them is a good thing. I mean, I guess you could be rough and very brutal, or you could be soft. And I'm like, you need to learn somewhere in the middle. It's like, no, I don't like. So because of that, when he speaks, he has a tendency of like, I don't want any conflict. So I'd love for you to expand on that. The idea of healthy tension, good, bad. Why is it a good thing exactly? Yeah.
Well, you might want to tell that person they'd be a great veterinarian.
Do not look the dogs in the eyes.
Exactly. It's already a good fit for the position. They have one of those behavioral traits.
But
and skills.
It's those paradigms that we were taught that we just repeat sometimes, and it has nothing to do with anything. It's like, oh, like money is bad. That's one that people say. And it's like, but why are you saying that? Do you really believe that? Is a paper dollar gonna jump out and hurt you? Like, no, like what are we talking about? So I think that was just one of them that he just says without and acting on it, and was affecting his business as well. Because we were talking about, okay, marketing is great, but in order for your profitability, you're going to have to go get also. You have the people that's come to you because of marketing, but now you have to convert them and do certain things to follow up after that point. Oh, I just don't like these people. I don't want any conflict. I'm like, what's happening right now? But yeah, talk to me about healthy tension. I feel like that could be like a whole show.
Well, in order to decide which areas there should be that healthy tension, I mentioned earlier, the folks that just want to jump in, they're really a quick start. They just want to chew it up and figure out how to get it done, versus the folks that really want to sit back and do a great job of looking at the data science and trying to determine how their competitors have done it and what mistakes people have made. But the other component of a really high functioning team is not only having a culture established and having the 4, 5, 6 components or criteria that they then measure themselves against it. So maybe one of the criteria is integrity. Maybe one of them is about communication. A third might be about kindness or how you treat people.
Oh,
So I
wow.
think you start to get the idea, but those things, after they're well defined, you can figure out, who in the organization doesn't embrace those things. And that's where that tension comes from. And sometimes it's healthy. Somebody might be a little stronger in one cultural value than another, but sometimes they just really don't fit, which goes back to where we started the conversation full circle.
Yeah.
Is sometimes you need to help people move on and get to the next level and get the right people on your team. So it's really healthy, dynamic team.
And I know we've spoken about it a little bit as we were doing the interview, but tell me a little bit about EOS Worldwide. Like, I know that you're part of it, but really you're bringing in your own business as well with that. Tell me a little bit more about this EOS system.
So EOS, as I mentioned, was designed by Gino Wickman about 15 years ago. He was a serial entrepreneur. He took over a family business, completely restructured it, turned it into a highly profitable and growing concern. And during that process, he figured out, how to make the art and science of building a great company work, not only for that company, but for other companies. So EOS works really well for companies that have anywhere from about 10 to 250 employees. Industry doesn't matter, and revenue doesn't matter either. Surprisingly, it's really the size of the company and whether or not they're. Go ahead.
No, I said that just made sense for me that it was the people, the amount of people, because the interaction and their dynamic and building the team is going to make more sense. When you said a revenue team versus revenue is the priority, yeah, that just kind of clicked it for me. So, okay, great. But yeah, continue, please. I kind of
Oh,
interrupted
sure.
you in full stream. I had a stream of thought.
So EOS is a set of really simple tools and a process that brings all those tools together in a very elegant and organic way. And there's essentially 3 components. The first one is around vision, and that's working with the leadership team in the organization to really tighten up that vision and make sure that everybody is on board, that you've heard, everybody's rowing in the same direction. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean that they all know how to get there and that they're all headed in that direction in the same way, or, is one person taking the curvy road and the other person's taking the straight line. So that's really critical. And the next one's around traction. So, is there accountability and is there a system within the organization so everybody knows every single day how to work towards that vision? So every person down to the last person in the organization has at least some kind of measurable, even if it's just one thing. But everybody knows what they need to be doing, how their job fits into that. And then there's a process that happens on a regular basis where managers or supervisors or executives evaluate the person based on that measurable. And then the last one, we talked about it. The last one is about people and getting everybody, on the right team and, making sure that they're the right folks.
Yeah. I mean, the wrong person or persons can be very poisonous to a team, can't it?
Absolutely.
All right. So Eric, I feel like, I have a lot of questions and I'm pulling myself back because this is a 30-minute show, but how can people learn more about you? How can they stay in touch with Eric Goldman, hear more about you and this wonderful process?
Great question. So I am happy to jump on a call with somebody to figure out whether it's the right time for the organization, whether it's the right time for that individual. I do individual executive coaching as well as working with executive teams and leadership teams. Happy to jump on that call. And if we do decide that it's a good time for them, that the organization is willing to be open and honest and transparent, and that they're willing to take risks and, walk into the fire, so to speak, which is not always the case. Yeah. Some folks are just so risk adverse that it doesn't matter what system or what process you bring to that organization. If the CEO is just not interested in change, it's not going to work. If you drag them in, you wind up dragging them around, and it's painful, and nobody wins. Yeah. The other thing that I'll do once we decide together that it's the right time is I'll spend 90 minutes with them in person or virtually, talking more about how I work and about the system, and even leaving them with a couple of tools that they can use right away. So I mentioned one of them, which
or is that a free consultation? Is it the entire team or just the CEO? Who is normally allowed in that consultation?
It is free.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely no charge. And if I'm going to work with the leadership team needs to be a part of that 90-minute consultation. Because it's really a matter of all of them being willing, or at least enough of them, because maybe there's that one person in the room that's not a culture fit or isn't interested. But working with all of the members of that group, we can try to elevate those issues and address them head on.
Nice. Okay. And Eric, thank you so much. I feel like I have to put the brake on so that we won't go to an hour and a half and then meet up later for drinks or something. Thank you so much for being on the show, by the way. And as always, if you want to reach out to Eric to gather more information, I will drop his website link in the background, in the LinkedIn area. Connect with him on LinkedIn, please. I'm hearing myself echo for some reason. I will drop that in so that if you want to connect with him on LinkedIn so that you can create some, do that 15 minutes, see if you're a proper match. I think that would be important. And of course, once you're ready, after you go through someone like Eric, it would be a perfect time to understand whether you need marketing as well. So, that marketing really shouldn't happen unless you get that squared away first, being quite honest with you. So my continued mission, as always, is to introduce you to everyday experts like Eric. and other business owners who will share their experience, their expertise. And of course, I'm going to share some marketing as well. We're on every Thursday, 10 a.m. on LinkedIn live show, not pre-recorded, beautifully edited. Um, thank you so much. But Eric, I wanted to have you do a quote to close us out today, to inspire us a little bit.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely talking with you and talking about teams and team dynamics. It's something that I'm very interested in, and I happen to wake up every morning very excited and energized to be a part of that process when I work with my clients. And I'd like to think that I have the capacity, the experience and expertise.
I think you do.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have the right people on the team and the right structure in order to be successful.
Absolutely. And actually, can I tell you, as a jump off from all the things that you've shared today, not just internally, but also externally, because shouldn't we apply that externally to our vendors and then our clients as well, right? So, because that whole circle is going to move forward.
Having shared values, which you hear that term tossed around a lot, but if you really determine your values and what's important to your culture and that criteria, you should be working with other vendors and partners that share similar criteria, because that's why partnerships work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, that's why I wanted to do the show today, because creating a financial structure, increasing your profitability, having your sales go up magnificently, these are part of the components. These are part of the discussions that need to happen in order to make that happen. Because yes, you could just go out and kill it, but it is my personal belief that these will not be long-standing results if all of the other elements behind you are not working as well. So thank you so much, Eric, for being on. Thank you, viewers, for checking us out and sharing. You guys are, oh, and something today I have to just say before I close out, because we not only do this here, we also upload it onto YouTube as well. We are now at 1,000 subscribers. Like, because of you guys, it happened like overnight. It was one thing one day, and then it was like, what happened? So thank you guys so much for helping us with that mission of just helping other business owners during this crazy time become amazing. So thank you so much, Eric. Thank you to everyone who will watch and also on the replay. Have an amazing rest of the day.
Thanks for having me. Take care.